Okay, let's get started. We've got to finish chapter 4 today. What is today, the 13th? And Wednesday we'll start chapter 5. Next Monday we'll finish chapter 5. Wednesday's quiz 4, then you're on Thanksgiving vacation for Thursday and Friday after Wednesday. What else do I have here? Your chapter 4 homework will be due Wednesday. It's already posted. And you have an in-class today. All right, Jacob's still in first place in Investopedia. Jordan's in second. And I can't remember if we talked about Reed or not, but he's here today, so I want to talk about it. You guys ready? Reed, what made you decide is called First Solar Inc.? How did you find that company, and what made you decide to buy it?
My uncle told me about it, and he said that they were working, or they're trying to work out a deal with Trump.
With Trump?
Yeah, so I figured I should probably.
Have you been? I think there's a chance you haven't been watching it because it had right here. After you bought it and had it for a little while, it had this take place. And usually, if you're watching it, you'd want to kind of get rid of some of the shares right about there so that in case it falls back down. But you kept them all, and it fell back down, but unbelievable, it came all the way back up again. Now, whatever has something like this take place, this giant jump like this, you should consider to sell at least half maybe. Just, so you don't lose it again. Because as I look at your detail, you bought it on, whoops, right here. You bought it on October 3rd for $47.12, and now it's, I didn't refresh this, but it's $61.15. Unbelievable. That's, can you see that? Hang on, what is that, 29% in just over a month? Is that true? What was the date you bought it? Just over a month, 29%. Wow. That's great. I looked at some of the details, and I saw that beta 1.22. Does this solar company stock go the same direction or opposite direction as the overall market on average? Same direction. Is the ups and downs more or less than usually compared to the overall market? No, not less. Because it's 1.22, we're looking at the beta. If it was below 1, the ups and downs would be smaller. Because it's above 1, the ups and downs are bigger, which means we could be looking at, if the market starts to go down, this stock could go down even faster, so you got to watch out. I noticed there was no PE ratio. Don't forget, everything you buy after that certain date, you want to keep track of the PE ratio just in case it's the one one of the ones you're writing about in your paper that's coming up. After Thanksgiving, I'll start going over details on the paper. You can work on your cover page between now and then. What else? I didn't see anything. I was reading some of these headlines, and I didn't see anything about what made it have that large increase, or anything that's related to Trump. You said, right? That your uncle told you. I didn't see anything about that, but everybody should have hope. Because all you need is one company that does something like that, and he's all the way up in third place. 10,909 as of last Friday, and your portfolio's at, let me get to it here, is at 10,787. So you've lost a little more than $100 already today. But still should be okay. You gonna maybe sell half? Okay. What else? Let's see. Here, your homework's due. That's it. Let's get into chapter 4. We'll get done early. Get our in-class assignment. All right. I want to talk about ATM fees. I'm going to slide 6, those who printed. I'm expecting every hand in the air because the question is, do you have an ATM card? Have you ever used ATM card? Okay, almost everything. Now, tell me, has anybody had an ATM fee in the last 2 years? One person, two people, 3, 4, 5? I haven't had one in a long time. Tell me, what is the approximate fee for an ATM fee when you happen to get one? How much?
All right, so I have a crappy bank, PNC, and if it's not their ATM, they charge me $4.
If it's not PNC, they charge you $4.
And if it's the ATM, they always charge you $3 or $2 surcharge, whatever it is. So I get charged that much, $4 plus $3
Every time?
every time. If it's not
theirs?
not theirs.
Okay. Same bank?
No.
Oh.
I feel like if I went to a gas station or something that was ran ATM, it's like $3 usually.
And then he's saying he gets a second charge
From the bank.
From the bank itself too, as well.
My parents, it's like a $3 charge to like go to the ATM at different banks, and they charge like $2.
Oh, okay. Now, this is a good argument for credit unions.
My credit union doesn't charge.
Because as long as you're using another credit union, and there's another credit union on every block in this country, and as long as you're using another credit union's ATM, there is no charge. I want to make sure I say that correctly though, because some credit unions have a limit per month, but it's usually so large that nobody hits it, and they usually have absolutely no charge.
It's like over $100.
I think it's like 60 transactions a month. If you're doing more than 2 a day, you may start to get charged from a credit union. But in most cases, I've used ATMs all over the country, and I've never ever been charged a fee. And it's just a matter of making sure you go to another credit union's ATM. So that'd be a good argument for that, because that's crazy. You're talking like $5 or $6 every time.
It's like $6 or $7 every time.
And then, you know,
PNC.
PNC ATMs can't be everywhere. I mean,
No, I think the nearest one is in Burton.
yeah, so, you know, you use that much in gas just to get to their ATM.
Yeah, but I just got a U of M credit union.
For U of M Credit Union, good. Is that open to all students? Do you guys can all use U of M Credit Union? I have an account at U of M Credit Union. I didn't know if everybody who's associated with U of M as a student could also open up there. Well, you should take advantage of that. You know, it doesn't hurt. All it takes is $5 to open an account there.
Yep.
And then, they'll send you their debit ATM card, and you can avoid those fees from now on. Unless it's late at night.
My
Real-
credit union too, I've been charged like accidentally, like I was within the co-op and I still got charged, and then I just took my receipt in, and then they
credit it back to your
Yeah.
account and took
it was
the charge off.
$250, but I was like,
Still $250, that's right. Hang on, I was gonna mention something. Oh, I just want to get you ready for possible homework problem. Go ahead.
This is kind of a stupid trick, but if you go to like a grocery store and buy like a candy bar that's less than $1, and then when they ask you if you want cash back off your debit card, you can get cash back and get charged less than $1 and you get a candy bar.
Okay, and, well, hang on a minute. Do they charge you any fee? No fee to have that cash back? I always wondered about that. So no fee. Now, is that for your credit union, bank, or it doesn't matter?
I've done it through my credit union. I've had a credit union and I now have a bank, and neither one of them is charging me.
And has anyone else experienced that, asking for cash back? You have, same thing, no charge though, no fee? Okay, well, that's a good idea. You can always use a candy. What I want to do though, don't forget, I said all semester you have that whole future value, present value type thing. Let's pretend you are somebody who's using and getting an ATM fee maybe twice a month or 4 times a month. Once a week, well, about once a week maybe. And you, let's say it's $7 if you add both fees, or 6? Let's use 6.
It's $7.
$7. So if he gets one every week, how many weeks in a year? 52. So multiply this times 52. Let's see how much money. I call this being wasted, but you know, you got to put up with it sometimes. So am I on the screen here? 52 weeks times $7. So that would be $364 a year. That's already enough information to make you want to switch. And let's say you put up with this for 20 years. I think that's how long it's been since I've seen a fee, or probably 30 years. 20 years, whoops, not dollars. 20 years, $364 a year, and you could have had it, and you know, you may have had to take it out of your checking account, which isn't earning hardly anything now. But when interest rates get back to normal, let's say your savings account is averaging 4%. We're doing once a year, $364, as if we could have put the money in an account once a year instead of wasting it once a week on ATM fees. 20 years, 20 periods, 4%'s our rate. Every time you're given a rate, that's a yearly rate. We're doing compounding once a year to make it easy. I'm going to future value lump sum or future value annuity. You tell me. Let me hear you. Anybody say anything?
Annuity.
Why annuity?
Because every year.
Because that money you would save it every year if you didn't have to pay it all the time. This would be the amount every year. It's like putting it back into the account each year. So I'm going to future value annuity, which is table 1B. I'm going to 20 periods.
Where'd you get 4%?
I made it up. In your savings account, before the crash, you could easily average 4 to 6%. So I'm just using the low end because right now it's 1%. If that. 4%, 20 periods. The number is 29,778. 29,778. You multiply that times the amount that could be saved each year as if it's being put into an account each year. We go back here. So $364 times 29.778. Whoop. That's all right, close enough. 10,000. I'm rounding $839. So, those who are paying these fees, go and join a credit union. You don't have the fees anymore. The money gets saved in the savings account. And you don't touch it for anything else. Through the next 20 years, you end up averaging 4%, maybe a little more than 4 later on. Right now, it's obviously less than 4. That will turn into $10,839. What would you do with that money 20 years from now? Put it towards your retirement. Because your goal when you retire is how much? $1 million. These little things add up through time.
That's how banks make their money, though.
That's how banks make their money is fees. That's a good part of the money. And another way banks make money is they say, okay, all you savers, you're depositing money here in your savings account and our certificate of deposits. The bank says we're using that money to lend it out to the other members who are borrowing. They're paying the people who are putting money there 1% and 2%. They're lending it out at 4%, 5%, and 11%, and they keep the spread, and that's how banks make money. That's how credit unions make money, is paying the savers a lower interest rate, collecting a higher interest rate from the ones who borrow, and they keep what's called the spread. And then the fees. And when the spread got smaller because interest rates went so far down, that's when all the fees came back. But before 2008, a lot of them had all those fees gone, not necessarily the ATM one, but a lot of other fees. Does anybody have that automatic protection where if you accidentally wrote a check and it went over the amount you have in the checking, it will pull it from another account? That's nice, because then the check clears, but you still get charged a fee for it. Is that correct? Before 2008's crash, that was even free. They didn't even charge you a fee for that. So that's come back. A lot of other fees have come back so that banks don't, so they can still make enough money to cover their expenses. So that's ATM fees. The lesson learned is if you want to get rid of the fees, most likely join a credit union or a different bank.
My credit union has something like that with credit card transactions, where it'll pull from your account, so it'll clear, but it still charges you the fee. But like, you have to like sign paperwork to approve them to do.
To have it done automatically. Yeah. To avoid the fee, though, you could just.
Oh,
pay
I just didn't sign.
No, I was just saying, you
paid
could just pay the credit card off in full, right? At the end of, as soon as you get that statement, a couple of weeks later, you pay it off in full, you avoid the fee. Go ahead.
My check card, my checking account is at 2
You then, you're saying if you use a debit card or you write a check that's more than what you have in there, they'll cover it, pull it out of your savings, and no fee for the first 6 a month. Oh, that's good. Is that a bank or a credit union? And what's the name of it so we can all join? Dort, the biggest one around. The biggest one in Genesee County, I believe, is Dort. Financial Plus, I think, is number 2, and I think Tri-Point maybe, or Genesee or something is 3. Anybody ever heard of those? You never heard of Dort, Financial Plus? Yeah, so join those if you get a chance. It takes $5, that's all it does. And then you're going to want to transfer money in so you can use those ATMs from now on instead of the other ones. All right, next, we're going to slide 11. I'm sure you've heard of some of these. Let's talk about them a little bit. These are problematic financial businesses that make money off people's problems. Pawn shops. We've all heard of pawn shops. And how do they work? You've seen it on TV, right? One of the shows. The one I noticed on the show, someone's bringing in something they want to sell, but traditionally pawn shops were all about someone would take something to say, here, hang on to this because I need to borrow money, and then you come back and pay the money back with interest and you get your item back. That's the traditional pawn shop way of doing things. And then they hope you don't come back because they usually give you such a small amount compared to what the item is that you brought in that they go ahead then, once that date's passed and you didn't come and pay the money back, they get to sell your item to get their money back. Plus, you know, they sell it for a lot more than what you owe. And that's the traditional way, and it's basically taking advantage of people who are so in need of money and can't think of any other way to get the money. They'll take their laptop in and say, hey, this is a $300 laptop, and they'll say, okay, we're gonna give you about half of what we think we can sell it for. Now you have this much time, you pay us back plus interest, you get your laptop back. If not, we get to sell your laptop and get our money back that way and keep the difference. So my advice, try to avoid, never, never, never use a pawn shop if you can avoid it. And whatever you want to, even if you're just trying to sell something at a pawn shop, you can always get more money the more traditional way of selling things, which are Craigslist, and there's that Facebook area sales or whatever it's called, and things like that, than going to a pawn shop. Their whole deal is to give you as little money as possible so they can make money off it.
I mean, the amount, so I was talking to my friend about this kind of stuff because she needed money and I was giving her options. She took 3 garbage bags and like 4 boxes of used clothes to put in her closet, like $150.
Okay, wait, she took the used clothes where?
Plato's Closet.
What is that, like a consignment shop?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? But, so they can buy the clothes outright?
It's not on consignment, they purchase them.
They purchase it, and so they're buying the clothes for like maybe half of what they think
Not
they
even
can
half.
sell it for?
No. It's like,
Less than half?
Yeah.
I took in like 2 bags too and I got like $60.
Okay, well,
And 2
that
pairs of
doesn't
shoes.
sound bad
One pair of
actually,
shoes was like $100.
because especially if you're taking clothes that you would end up giving to
Yeah.
Goodwill.
I
or-
wouldn't want them anymore, that's the thing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
right.
throw them away or give
I'm
them-
really surprised they aren't more picky, that they say, oh, we're gonna go through this bag and only take the things we think we can resell.
Oh, they do.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, they
they're
do.
super picky.
Oh, they are, so they're not taking everything in the bag then?
No,
Yeah.
no, they pick.
Well, that's a pretty big bag to
They
get
pick
60
through your
bucks.
bag.
I know, she got, for all her stuff, she got like.
That's a better option than
Yeah.
any of these, for
Yeah,
sure.
because I told her about pawn shop, and she was like,
Yeah. Now, when you guys itemize, you're gonna do the same thing, but you're taking it to Goodwill, and they hand you a receipt, and now you're gonna get like $60 off your income that you don't have to pay taxes on, so you'll get like 25% of that back in cash in your pocket. No, you'd give more. You'd say, these clothes are worth more than 60. They're so picky and they're giving you so
Yeah, they
little,
are.
your receipt would be more like 200, and you'd get the money back in your taxes instead, which would be easier. Because 25% of 200 is $50.
Goodwill gives you a receipt for like the actual worth of the clothes.
No, they give you a receipt and they allow you to use the honor system to put what you think they're worth. That's how it works.
Name brand clothes.
But if you put more than 250, then you gotta fill out a form and you gotta itemize. And so, remember I was going over the itemized deduction, I said, notice this 250, try not to go over that. Just take a bag, drop it off at Goodwill is what I do every year. And I put the 2 or 250 on the receipt, and I have that in my files because I know I'll be audited someday. I've already been through 2, and everybody here will be audited once. Be prepared for it. Just keep a file of things, why you did your taxes the way you did, especially when you start itemizing. And when you buy a house, you notice that tax reform's in the news a lot lately, and one of the items that's big news is they're trying to, this new tax reform that they're going to be voting on, is to take away, on that itemized deduction, they want to make changes. Remember when I said you can itemize the interest you pay on a loan for a house, and then if you've got another loan called a home equity loan, you can also itemize that? They're trying to reduce the maximum you can itemize on home interest loan. And then also, I said on the tax section of that itemized, you could do your state and local taxes when you paid them. They're trying to remove that, so that won't be deductible anymore. And that part of it seems to be agreed upon. That might pass.
I know the one thing that kind of pissed me off, to be frank, is that they're trying to get rid of, like, if teachers go and pay for materials and stuff for their classroom out of pocket.
Right. That's right, and that's in the adjustment section at the bottom of your page 1 was educational expense deduction, where if a teacher, it's in a public school, I think, pays for something out of their pocket because the administration won't pay for it, but they need it for their instruction, they get a deduction and not have to pay taxes on that money they spent. And yeah, that's another thing, taking a,
Like pencils and paper.
Yeah, they're taking away a whole bunch of things. You saw when they did that press conference, they're holding up like a large postcard saying, we want people to be able to do their taxes on a form that's this size, the size of a postcard. They want to simplify it, but they're taking away a lot of deductions, which won't necessarily help the middle class, which would be like teachers. There's a lot of things being changed that's going to help a lot of the higher income people. So you got to read between the lines a little bit. Next, check cashing outlets. I was in line at customer service at Walmart, and I noticed they offer check cashing. Is there a lot of other places you can go to and get check cashing? And
Almost all
what's
grocery stores.
grocery stores?
Most
And
of
do
them.
they charge a fee? Because I noticed Walmart was charging a fee.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to show you a quick little calculation, not on the check cashing, but payday loan company, that you can estimate what the equivalent percentage is of that fee you're being charged. So you can realize, because everybody just goes, oh, it's only $5, oh, it's only $7, but really, what percent is that if that was compared to borrowing money on a true loan? Let me give you an example. If you had a credit card, and I showed you last week where I got those checks, and it had the little, if 0% if I decide to use one of those checks, to use some of the credit on my credit card, and then it said there's a fee of 3%, just like when you're doing a balance transfer. Well, let's say you had a credit card, you got those checks, and you're thinking about using that because you need money. The 3% is all you'd be charged up front. So that would be your comparison to any of these other options you might have. And the one I want to show you how to calculate, how to estimate what the percentage would be so you have it to compare to, is on this payday loan companies. Because these have been around now for a little while, but before a law passed in Michigan, they were able to charge anything they wanted. And it was getting outrageous. People were but they felt like they had no choice. And what these payday loan companies, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced it, from what I understand, you go in and you sign paperwork where you may get a $200 loan, and the paperwork you're signing says that now on the next payday, $200 will be taken out of your check and sent directly to them to pay it back, plus some interest, I believe. Does that sound correct? Anybody know? No one's ever attempted this? You're all in college and don't have the jobs to get a payday loan. What I want you to see is, I got this website I found. Where is it? The State of Michigan's Attorney General website. Payday loan, know your rights. When they passed this blanky blank years ago, this was after tons of people were going, oh man, this payday loan company is ripping me off, blah, blah, blah. But now this is supposed to stop them from ripping people off, but you can only imagine what people used to be charged, but look at what they can still be charged. So I'm going down here to where the rules are. This is the maximum a payday loan company can charge based on that much loan for a 2-week period, because usually it's 2 weeks. So if you go in to borrow $200, the most they can charge you is $29 for 2 weeks. $100, $15 for 2 weeks. So, someone's going in, I need $100, yes, I'll sign the paperwork, it will come out of my next payday, get sent to you, and you'll get paid back $115. So $15 divided by 100. $15, it doesn't look like much, but that happens to be 0.15. I'm turning it into a percentage, moving the decimal 2 places to the right, 15%. But to really understand what you're being charged, you got to say, what is the yearly equivalent to that? Now, I taught you APY last week, and when we start the chapter 5, you're going to learn APR. Remember the difference? One's about borrowing money, one's about investing money. I want to show you a way just to do a quick estimate. Wait, the web page even shows you. Right here. Okay. You're getting charged $15 on $100 for 14 days, 2 weeks. So how much are you being charged each day? So $15 divided by 14 days is $1.07 per day. Now, if you were being charged that for a whole year every day, that would be 365 days times $1.07. And really, that should be 15% is what I would have done. Divided by 14 is 1.07% per day. And if you were charged that every day for a year, you're getting charged 391% is the yearly equivalent. Think about that. 391%, and that's legal. They finally, before that, people were getting charged more than that. 391%. And when a credit card 0% ends, and let's say you couldn't pay it all back and you have to start making payments and pay interest, it may, at the worst, go up to 19%. That's the yearly percentage, 19%. So you have to compare this 391% to a credit card at its highest rate of maybe 21% even, and you can see how much of a ripoff this is. Even though you look at it as only $15 for 2 weeks, it's really a lot more than that. 391% is its equivalent. I want to do another one, make sure you get this. All right, and I'm going to change this to a percentage divided by the time, then multiplied by the days. Are you ready? We're going to do a $300 loan for $42. So I get $42 divided by 300. On the screen, 42 divided by $300. So I'm getting charged 14.14, which is 14%, for 14 days. What percent am I getting charged each day if it's 14% for 14 days? 1%. So I now want to make it the yearly equivalent would be, if I were getting charged 1% every day for a whole year, would be 365%. So even on this loan, because you borrowed a little more, the fee's a little less, it's still 365%. And if you compare it, I want to see if I have an old credit card thing here. Here we go. All right, well, gee, I have this credit card. What if I just go ahead and do a cash advance or a balance transfer and get the money somehow through them? And let's say the 0%'s off the table, but you still have the card and you're going, maybe this is an option instead of me doing a payday loan. Says you'd be charged 13.99%. And if you only do it for 2 weeks, you got to divide that 13.99 by 365 days times 14. You only get that percent for 14 days. That's for a whole year. So to compare apples to apples, you have a chance here at 13.9, call it 14% for a whole year, or 365% for a whole year. You still only need, if you only borrow the money for 2 weeks, you can see how much less this will be. Just 2 weeks of 14%. And this is 2 weeks of 365%. So you can see how much you're getting ripped off using a payday loan company. So my advice, never, ever, ever, and if you ever know anybody who's thinking about using a payday loan company, try to stop them. Tell them there's got to be another way. Don't allow them to get ripped off. All right. Now you've learned about, where is it? Problematic pawn shops, check cashing, 2 to 3% fee for the check cashing. Again, is the advantage of cashing a check at like a Walmart or somewhere is because the bank's closed or something like that, and instead of going there to cash it, or because the bank, if you have an account at a bank or credit union, they don't charge you anything to cash it, correct? Right? So you're just trying to not have to go to the bank or somebody like that. They got to realize, so how much time are they saving paying that 2 to 3%? Let's say they're saving 2 days. They're getting charged 2% for 2 days. Again, that's 1% per day. That's the equivalent of 365%, even though it's only 1 or 2%. And because that's all the time you're saving by going to a cash checking place compared to going to a bank is maybe 2 days. It's still very expensive, even though it looks like it's only, it's a $200 check, so 2% would be a very small amount of money, but if you do it based on time, it's really a ripoff. Rent to own. Here's my experience with rent to own. A long time ago, I used to see these neighbors always have these rent to own trucks pull up, delivering like a new TV or a couch and love seat. And then I'd always see the truck pull up like a month or 2 later and bringing the new TV back out and bringing the couch and love seat back out. So the only thing I can think of is that, some people are using these rent to owns and then they stop payment and they have to have the stuff given back. Is that correct? Is that what's going on? If you look at how much you're being charged on a rent to own, furniture place, TVs, computers, it's also very expensive, very much a ripoff. And a long time ago, they used to, a lot of places, especially Kmart, which is hardly around anymore, had what's called layaway programs, where they hang on to it for you, you make payments on it, and once it's paid off, then you finally get it. That's far less expensive. They don't charge you any interest or fees or anything than a rent-to-own. You just have to have patience. But these rent-to-owns, if you look at how much you're paying altogether with the rent-to-own compared to buying it outright, you're really getting ripped off, just like the payday loans, just like the cash checking and pawn shops. So these are all things you should always avoid, all of them, in your life, if you're ever considering. Next, we're going to slide 16. Let's talk about paying bills. A long time ago, before the internet, I wrote checks for every bill. Every month, to write a check, put it in the mail, write a check, put it in the mail. Almost every bill I have now, I pay online. Does anybody else pay bills online other than me? So a lot of you do. So you realize how convenient it is. And in most cases, if you're paying with your checking account online, there's no fee. So it's free, and you don't have to pay for the check, and you don't have to pay for the stamp, and it's very convenient. But a lot of places, if you're paying with a credit card, will have a small fee. So that's kind of a ripoff also, because it's like 2% for 1 day. So my advice is, get familiar with how to make electronic payments. Now, some people do it right through their bank or credit union on a bill pay link. But I happen to go to each of the places' own website and pay it right through what they have set up on their own web pages. Does anybody use their bill pay through their bank instead of going to the web page of the company they pay? Does anybody have that experience? Can you tell me a little about it? Nobody? You do?
I only do it for my credit card with the same thing.
What do you mean with your credit card? Would they charge you a fee? Okay, because you're using bill pay to do it with?
Yeah.
And you can direct where it comes out of on bill pay, whether it comes out of your checking, savings, or even your credit card.
Yeah.
Now, when you have it come out of your credit card, are you getting charged interest on the credit card, or you have it set up to pay the credit card in full?
Correct.
To avoid fees and interest?
I pay my credit card off in full every month.
Is that automatic coming out of your
Of
checking?
my checking, correct.
Now, if your checking doesn't have enough to pay off the credit card, it's all set up then to come out of your savings to cover
Yes.
checking. And there's a fee there?
I'm not sure actually.
Okay.
if it charges me or not.
The point is, take advantage of the convenience. The worst thing I experience is when, and I try, it never happens to happen, but it still happens once in a great while, because I have a system using a planner so I know when every bill's there, is when you forget to pay a bill. When you forget, and it's happened, is anybody else? I can see some looks like maybe it's happened to you. You forget, then you got that late fee, and that late fee is usually such a ripoff. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot of money, but if you turn it into a yearly percent like this, you can compare it. It's a ripoff. And I just am so mad at myself for doing that, having to pay that fee. So whatever system you can put together, and now really, once you get the bill, if you're using that bill pay, I noticed, you can set it up to pay on the date you want it to pay, and then you don't have to remember. You can get it all set up. You just got to remember the money's there to make sure when it's going to take place. So take advantage of that. As soon as you get the bill, go in, set up the bill pay for the date you would have wanted to pay it, and then it just pays itself when that date comes. So take advantage of that. Look at, we're flying. Let's go to slide 20. This is kind of old school, but now with the internet, I don't reconcile my checkbook anymore. You know when you get a bank statement, you have a balance on the bank statement. It says your balance in your checking is this much. Then you have your check register with your checkbook, and it's not the same number. It never is, because there's certain things that have taken place that are not recorded. Like you don't know how much interest you earned on your check if you have an interest-bearing checking account. You don't know how much until you get the statement. If you had any fees, you don't know how much the fees were until you get the statement. You may have written some checks, but they haven't cleared yet in time to hit the statement. So usually the two of them don't equal, and you got to get them balanced out usually. But I've changed my habits to where anytime I need to know how much is in my checking account, or I need to know if a check cleared, or I need to know if any fees have been charged, I can just go online and look at the details within seconds. And so I've gotten into that habit to where I look at my checking account probably at least once a week. Does anybody else look at their checking account semi-often? So a lot of you do. Now I can see where, hey, I'm about to use this debit card, it's gonna come out of my checking, I wanna make sure there's enough there. Is that a possible reason why you would check your checking? That's so convenient. Back before the internet, you could not do that. You had to go, God, I hope there's enough there. I can't remember what my balance was. And you had to reconcile. But I got an example just to prepare you. Here it is. All right? I'm going to show you a way to reconcile. You got your bank statement. It says you have $950 in your checking account. You look at your checkbook, and you have recorded that you're at $1,142, and you want to figure out why these two balances aren't matching. So you start going through the bank statement, you start going through your check register, if you have to write down every time you write a check. And what I used to do is, gosh, I shouldn't say this, but sometimes, when I was young, after I got out of the bar, we'd always go to a Coney Island to eat. Does anybody still do that? And I would go to the ATM, and I would never mark in my checkbook, because by the time morning came around, I couldn't remember I did that. So they would never balance, So and now you have the internet, it's pretty easy to, oh, look at what I did last night. How crazy is that? Wow.
It's an even worse morning.
But here's the old-fashioned way. You start out by saying, here's the beginning balance. I'm going to do with the bank. Come on. What I want you to help me with is tell me, I'm going to define these transactions. You tell me, was that on the bank statement or was it on the check register? And then I got to put it on the opposite. So I'm starting with the bank balance. That's at $950. And then my checkbook is at $1,142. First thing I have on there, outstanding checks. Oh, I'm sorry? Outstanding checks means you've written some checks, but they haven't cleared the bank yet. So when you got that bank statement, they weren't on there. So they're in your check register though, because when you wrote the check, you went ahead and marked it in there, but it hasn't cleared yet. It's only been a couple days, and you just got the bank statement, and so it's not on there. So because they're already in that 1,142, how much are they? I forgot. It's 167, but they're not on that bank balance of 950. You wrote the checks. They're going to come out of your bank balance when they finally clear. So I'm going to subtract $167 for outstanding checks that have not cleared. So we're on the fourth one. Direct deposits. You had a direct deposit set up, and it took place, and it showed up in your account, but you forgot to put it in your check register because it was already something that's automatically done through a job you have. By the way, almost many jobs after you graduate, full-time work, they mandatory that you use direct deposit. They don't want to do the paper checks anymore. So you got to remember to put it in your check register, or you just don't do your check register anymore. But in this case, it's on the bank statement, but it's not in your checkbook. And these were money that got put into your account, so we're going to now get it into the checkbook. How much was it? Direct deposits, $200. We're adding here to our checkbook, so now it's in there. There's direct deposits. Next, account fees. You just discovered you had some account fees because you received the bank statement and you see them on there. But you didn't record them. You had no idea you were charged those fees until you got that statement. So your checkbook does not reflect those fees, but your bank statement does. You need to subtract the fees now from the checkbook balance. How much were the fees? $19 minus 19 on the checkbook balance. Next, ATM withdrawals. This is my late night withdrawals that I forget. And all of a sudden I look, and how much are they? I want to make sure. I got my bank statement and I'm going, wow, who took this money out? $390 for the month. And this is like 10 withdrawals. I had drawn 10 times and forgot that I did this, and they added up to $390. Wow, I got to get that into my checkbook. So now I'm subtracting these withdrawals of $390 from my check balance. You can see why these two aren't balancing. Next, deposit in, let me cross that one out. Transit. Deposit in transit. It's hard to describe that one. This means you made a deposit right when that bank statement was possibly being printed up and getting ready to mail to you. And you know you made the deposit. You dropped it off at the ATM or at the bank. But it didn't show up in your statement. So they call it in transit. So you need to now get that deposit onto your bank account balance. So we're adding, where is it? $160 right there. And last, interest earned. Interest earned, you got your bank statement and it says you made $10 extra because it's an interest-bearing account. But you never put it in your check register because you didn't know you made that extra $10 until you got your bank statement, just like you didn't know you were charged fees. So we need to add this $10 to the checkbook balance. And now you're ready. You take 950 minus 167, add 160. This will come out to be 943. And now you take your checkbook balance, 1,142, add the $200, subtract the 19, subtract the 390, add that $10 interest, you're going to get 943. And now you discovered why the two aren't balanced to each other, and you realize there's no money missing, nothing to worry about. Is anybody, my mother will never, ever, ever take a check and deposit it through an ATM machine. She feels it will never hit her account for some reason. And I want to tell you, I've done deposits at ATM machines, and I've never had it not hit my account. And not only does it always hit my account, but it's almost as if I'm standing in front of a teller, the exact same time and date it hits my account, even though I was at an ATM in another state.
Do you do cash too?
What do you mean, take cash? Oh, put cash in through the ATM? Very rarely, but yes, absolutely. What I love about the new ATMs, in the old days, you had to put the cash in an envelope and put it in. And so sometimes you may have put in the wrong amount. Oh, I forgot that $10 bill. Or people sometimes would not put any money in and pretend they're putting money in. But they, credit unions and banks caught onto that. So you can't just now take it right back out because you just put it in. They have this waiting period unless you already had money in the account equal or more to what you're putting in. But that was a common thing. But nowadays, you have to put the bills in, and they read them, and they know exactly how much cash you're putting in. So yes, I use it to put cash in or checks. And it's never, ever, ever lost my money. Go ahead.
I know with my ATM, I deposited a check on Christmas that has a
Picture of the check now. Yeah, exactly. And when you put the check in, it's no longer an envelope. A lot of them now, you put the check in, it's reading the check, brings it on screen, and asks you if it's reading the balance of how much the check is, and you gotta say confirm or not confirm of the balance. ATMs have gotten a lot smarter nowadays, so don't be afraid of them. Your receipt, the picture, the way it's being done, you don't have to worry. And I've never, again, ever have money lost in any way by using ATM for deposits or withdrawals or anything. So don't fear using it. All right. Now, we reconciled our account. Where is my list? That's it? That's the end of our chapter? Any other questions? You ready for the in-class? Here's my hint before I show you. Last week, Wednesday, I said the hardest part of this chapter, I want to get it out of the way and get this to you, is that formula. I said you'll see two formulas called APY at the end of the chapter. One is if the time is exactly 1 year, 365 days. The simple one. The more difficult one is if the time period is any other time other than 1 year, 365 days. And that's the one I wanted you to be familiar with, because in most cases it's not exactly a year. It's not exactly 365 days. Work together, don't work alone. All right? Get set up and take your time, help each other. APY. Remember here. What would be the APY for a savings account that earned $211 in interest on $1,900 over the past 285 days, a partial year, not a full year? Take your time. I explained to do it in parts. First get the percentage, get that exponent figured out based on time, then put it all together. You add to 1, then after you do your calculations, you subtract 1, turn it into a percentage. After you get to the end, move the decimal 2 places and turn it into a percentage.